the first thing I said was, I want my kids to grow up in a 2-parent household. It's the best I could, I was going to try to make the best decisions to make that happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, it guides my decision making till this day. I always say, man, look, man, it's easy to get a lot of women. Anybody can do that. Anybody. Think about it. That's easy to do, but it's real difficult to make a relationship work with one person. It's just constant work.
Yeah.
It takes communication, honesty, trust. It takes all these things that you continuously have to work on.
Yeah.
And so I think as men, sometimes we got to remember that. And if we frame it that way in our minds, then we can make, better decisions.
Yeah.
But number one, I just wanted my kid to grow up with 2 perspectives and see 2 healthy people having healthy dialogue and disagreements and agreements and love and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what we work on every day.
Okay.
We trying. That's all we can do.
I remember the song my daddy used to sing. It was a soulful tune. He sang it when he woke up in the morning, first thing in the afternoon.
Welcome back to the Daddy Song Podcast. We got a very special guest. All of our guests are special, but this gentleman I met years ago when I first moved to New York. He's an excellent drummer and now the head of a great nonprofit organization. So I'm looking forward to getting his thoughts on, raising children, working with children, educating children and everything. So please welcome to Daddy Song Podcast, Darrian Douglas.
Yeah, you're right, bro. It's good to be here, man. I hope you put my applause track. It's in my contract.
I'm gonna add that. You might be the first one that I do that. First and the last one that I do that for. All right, man. So yeah, like I said, when I hit you up about doing this, I want to get the fatherly perspective from other people involved in the performing arts. I think we're in a unique position, and since we access that creative part of our brain, I think sometimes maybe that has my theory anyway is that it has an effect on maybe how we parent, and for better or for worse, so, and if not it doesn't, but
yeah,
I want to get the perspective on fatherhood. So I'll first start off by just getting your background, talk about who you are, where you from, like where you from, where'd you grow up.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, man. So I always tell people I'm country.
Yeah.
So, single mom. My mom was hardworking. My dad was a musician, but he lived in California.
Oh wow, okay.
And so it was a lot of the back and forth kind of situation happening there and stuff. But I was fortunate enough in 5th grade to audition for the performing arts school in my town in Jackson. So. And at that school, I auditioned on like recorder flute, and I got in on that based on the possibility of me developing into a real musician.
Right.
And then my first instrument was the clarinet because we had one. So my mom played clarinet. She just had her clarinet from high school.
Yeah.
So I started to play that, and clarinet is hard, man. It's
I tried it once. I couldn't get a sound out.
Yeah, exactly.
I played sax for some years too, but I couldn't even get a sound out when I tried to play clarinet. But,
yeah, same, man.
Yeah.
I was on that thing for 2 years, couldn't get it to do nothing. And so I'm played transition from clarinet to violin. Okay. And that was cool, but I was also terrible at that. But I had always wanted to play the drums. Because I used to go to my dad's rehearsals and everything. Okay. And I would see the drums, man, I really want to play the drums. My mom was, nah. Okay. So my music teacher secretly taught me the drums on the weekends. Wow. Where I was supposed to be going to his house for violin lessons. But he'd be giving me drum lessons.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
That's right. Dr. Combs.
Dr. Combs.
And so, like 6th grade, we laid it on my mom. I was like, all right, he's going to be a drummer because he sucks at all this other stuff. Yeah. And so, and that's how I started playing drums, man. I just worked it out, played in church.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Everybody's story. There's similarities and and differences in everybody's stories, how they come to music. But I think it's always through some teacher that kind of has an influence on us from the beginning.
Absolutely.
So that's dope. So man, you say you're from the South. I don't detect like that expected stereotypical Mississippi twang in your voice or whatever. I've always
you know what? Wondered. It's
I bet when you go back down there, it kind of comes out.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah,
I've been in New York for 11 years, and then before this, I was in New Orleans for 5 years.
Okay.
So I left Mississippi as soon as I could.
Yeah.
And then we travel all the time, man. Yeah. So I think that the accent just kind of just over the years just gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
But it's in there, but it's not like It's not like I left Mississippi yesterday.
Right.
Some people retain it, which is interesting to me. Mm-hmm. But for me, I didn't. So
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So how was you say you come from, I guess, a musical family, semi-musical family. Your father's a musician. Your mom not so much. Well, she played clarinet.
Yeah.
So
she played music in high school.
Okay.
And my dad did too. And they met in high school and everything. And so they had known each other for a long time. But my mom didn't become a professional musician.
Yeah.
But my dad did. And so he was in this band called Unity, and they went on the road with like Mint Condition, a bunch of things in the late 80s, early 90s, that kind of thing.
Yeah. My father recorded. I guess he was in a band. The band was called Unity as well.
Oh, really? What kind of music was it?
It was more like that 70s avant-garde jazz stuff, like coming out of Chicago. So it was led by a man named Byron Morris. So it was Byron Morris and Unity. So
word.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah, my dad's band was my dad, my uncle, and a bunch of their friends who they grew up with, and my aunt too.
Yeah,
they were all in this band, and they did a bunch of touring and stuff. But when you're in the world of pop, man, it's hard. It's hard to say they didn't really get to that next level.
Yeah. And everybody trying to climb that mountain. Only so many people, only room for every level. Every level gets smaller. It's like a pyramid, but
it's a little easier in jazz to sustain a living.
Yeah, you think so?
I mean, the upside, the upside isn't as high.
Yeah,
but we do, because in jazz you don't need fans. Is the thing, because it's institutional money that supports jazz musicians.
Yeah,
and you can book a gig at a club without a huge following. Pop doesn't work like that. You're gonna get the door. If 5 people show up, you make $10.
Yeah,
that's on you.
Yeah.
So in jazz, if 5 people show up, you still want your $300, whatever. Whatever you negotiated. So it's a little bit different, but
Okay. And so when did you make it to New York?
I moved to New York in 2012, December 1st, 2012.
Okay, 3 months after me.
Yeah,
I was October 1st. Well, yeah.
Okay,
2 months.
Yeah,
after me.
I was in New Orleans. I was never gonna leave New Orleans because the thing is, I love New Orleans.
Yeah,
and I felt like New Orleans loved me. We were in this deep love affair. But I realized that if I wanted to see if I could play with the best musicians in the world, not that New Orleans doesn't have some of them, but New York just has a bigger concentration.
Yeah.
So I needed to move just to see. And
New Orleans is a little more insulated, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a smaller scene.
Smaller scene.
That's all.
Yeah.
I had always planned to move to New York, but I had an opportunity that I couldn't turn down in New Orleans. With Ellis Marsalis.
You played with Ellis Marsalis.
So I had to move to New Orleans and do that, and then I loved it.
Okay.
And then one day I was like, all right, I'm leaving tomorrow. And so I just
like that.
Yeah, I packed my car up with my drums and my clothes.
Yeah.
I played a gig, and then I drove to New York because it was the only way I was ever gonna leave.
Okay. Right, so how long were you in New Orleans before then?
I was in New Orleans for about 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a decent amount of time.
Yeah, the first year I was kind of doing a thing where I was going to New Orleans, driving back to Mississippi, that kind of thing, and then I finally got an apartment and moved there and all that.
Okay, yeah, and so New York, you you just moved on a day's notice, basically. Like how you even
I had planned
at the YMCA, like old jazz stories.
Okay, so Max Moran, I don't know if you know Max, he's a bass player who was from New Orleans, was living in New York, but who I knew from New Orleans, but he was moving back to New Orleans. So what happened was he was living with Victor Gould in Brooklyn. And so I had a girlfriend at the time, so me and my girlfriend came up here together. And so we moved into Max's room. And that was just like, I can't remember how long, maybe a month or two, you know?
Yeah.
Just to kind of find time to get a place, get settled and all that stuff. So I lived in Max Moran's room as long as I could. And then, man, it was hard. I managed to find an apartment in Harlem. Okay. And so we moved on. It was 111th and 7th Avenue, Adam Clayton Powell, Central Park North. Yeah, lived there for a couple of years. You know, the first 2 years in New York were hard, man. I always tell you it was the only time I was broke. I mean, I was broke. and so I was playing in Central Park. You know, I would get up at 5 in the morning and take my drums to Central Park to hold the spot, and then get a bunch of my friends together, and we'd play in the spring and in the fall, you know, and stuff. We play all day, man, and that's kind of how I made money until I could get my name out on the scene. Because like coming to New York, you show up and you're like, oh, I played with this person, I played with Elza. No one cares. Yeah, it's like, all right, okay,
it's so like your resume,
it doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
Can you play right now? Yeah, and like you know, you get judged kind of hard on you know, and it takes time to make friends here. Yeah. People like Will Dellisford and Corey, all those people. Rich McBride and Jason Marshall. Jason Marshall and Will Dellisford are the ones who kind of helped me solidify my career.
Same. I didn't know Jason that well, but you know, I knew Will from Chicago because he went to NIU, Northern Illinois University, and so I knew him from that scene. And so I guess that was kind of my connection to New York, like getting in on that scene. But you did your thing in New York for quite some time, and now you living the domesticated life. So when did you become a father?
Man, my kid was born. I mean, you become a father the moment you find out your latest pregnant. Yeah, but she was born in September 2nd, 2020.
COVID baby.
Yeah.
So that's I don't think we've had a COVID baby on here just yet in the 3 interviews I've done. Okay. So definitely want to get your take on that.
Man, you know, it was very difficult just from the perspective of no support. Yeah. And so it's just me and Shadia. That's it. Yeah. That's like nobody can come see us. No one can like, you know, or even when I was going to the hospital with her for the visits, like I couldn't go in. Yeah. And so that was like only went to one visit, and then COVID. You know? Yeah. So I didn't get to do the thing like see a kid on the screen with the heartbeat, all this stuff. Yeah. I didn't get to do that, and so that was rough. Man, I'd be sitting in the car, you know.
You don't know what's going on in there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, and I have to wait and get the report. You know, and you know it's stressful getting the body scans, and it's a whole process. Yeah. And you know,
but you were able to be in the delivery room and stuff.
Yeah, but just me,
just you. Yeah,
and that was rough too.
Yeah, because I had a doula, thankfully, and
cool.
We had a doula. That was, I should say, she had a doula, but you know, we had a doula. Yeah. But that was a tremendous help. Like someone, because as a man, like there's certain things you may not. Questions I may not know how to ask or how to navigate, and just the I don't know what she's going through while giving birth necessarily. So a doula, that was indispensable. So yeah, and for you not to be able to even have another person in the room to help advocate or support, yeah, I know that was difficult.
Yeah, because there was all kind of complications and stuff happening. Yeah, like, because this is pregnancy and delivery ain't no joke. Yeah, and so you know, it would have been nice to like have somebody like your mom or anybody to be like, it's gonna be cool. It's just you in there texting the whole family like, all right, this is going on. Blah, blah, blah. And but she ended up having to have a C-section, and so it was a whole process. Of things happening, and then you got COVID outside. Right, they give you a baby, and you gotta put a bubble around it quick. You know, and that was probably definitely the most stressful thing of trying to protect this thing that is like the most precious gift that you've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And then coming out of COVID, that was a whole nother mental process of like, how do I now turn that off and then just let COVID possibly get my kid, which eventually she did get COVID just because I think everybody's going to get COVID, you know?
Yeah, at some point.
But it was a scary process, and to like live everything over Zoom. Like everything was on Zoom.
Everything.
You know, like the baby announcement, her first birthday.
Yeah.
And then everything in between that. You know, she didn't even meet her family until she was 2 years old.
Wow.
You know, and, man, there's so much stuff that happened. Like my grandmother died, and so she never got to meet the kid. And then you got to live with that. Man, it was deep if you're the type of person that cares about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And for me, I do. So it was you know, it wasn't all doom and gloom, but it also wasn't like it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Being a parent during COVID, you know.
Yeah. So you made it out of COVID, and I don't know. I guess she's 3 years old now. So you got a pretty young child. So how's the transition been for you into fatherhood? You know, like what have you learned?
Curse on this podcast?
You can curse. Do your thing.
Hey, listen, man. This is hard. You know, to be a parent. I ain't got to tell you.
Yeah. It's
not easy, and I think, you know, for me, I thought that nothing in my life was going to change. I told my therapist that. I told Shadia that.
Wow.
I told everybody, I was like, nothing happens in my life going to change. I'm going to practice 5 hours a day. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to have a baby. And like I have this whole thing.
You said practice 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. I'm lucky if I get to practice 10 minutes a day. You know, and so you know what I mean. Like I lived my life a certain way before we had the kid. And then I just thought that was going to continue. So I had to like let the old me die so the new me can be born with this new responsibility. And yeah, man, it's hard because your entire life changes. Like not one thing. You know? It's like you get a puppy. Oh man, now I got to like walk the puppy. You know? That's why when people say, oh, it's like having a dog. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's like you're responsible for this human that you have to teach everything. Right. You have to protect. You know, you have to get this other sense of patience too, bro. You know,
patience,
which is hard to do, because what kids do is they push you to the brink of your sanity, like every day. You're gonna have at least one moment a day where you're just like, oh man, like but you have to like, let them go through the process,
right?
Let them be, you know.
Yeah, it's as much of a learning and growing for you as it is for the child, you know?
Yeah.
But so, you know, with your upbringing in Jackson, Mississippi, and you know, you're not in the city anymore, you know, you've transitioned, you're out in Jersey now, so you got a little more space. But are there any differences that you find from, you know, how you grew up, the energy from your childhood, and what, you know, you're able to give your daughter and what your daughter's experiencing?
Yeah, man. I mean, listen. First of all, I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
already completely different, you know. And even for me, like I didn't witness 2 people negotiating to make decisions. Yeah. And so I had to you have to learn that, bro. You have to like go through the process and be like, oh, and she didn't either, because she's from a single parent household too. So that alone is like, you know, first of all, you get up in some couples therapy so y'all can work that out, because teamwork is how you're going to get through this. But you have to learn that. And also, man, like, ain't nothing like Mississippi.
Right.
You know, and then I grew up in the 90s, you know. I'm born in 1985, so, you know, it was just a different time period with a different style of parenting and a different, like, culture. You know, like I grew up in the Bible Belt. We go to church every day. Yeah. Christmas, church. Halloween, church. Yeah. Birthday, church. Like everything is a church holiday. Yep. You know? And so it was way different. You know what I mean? Like we extracurricular activities. Guess what? That was at church too. So like it wasn't you know, everything we did was kind of connected to like this spiritual thing. we don't really have that in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And then also like my connection to that is different now too. So trying to recreate that in a positive way is I haven't quite figured that part out.
Okay. But there's some things that I guess you say you've had to let go of, or anything like, is there anything that you had in Mississippi that, you know, you don't necessarily have for your daughter now that, you know, you had to let go of the idea of it being, like for me, I'll give you an instance. For me, it's just the idea of my child being able to just play outside freely.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
City, yeah.
It's like, you know, play dates have to be scheduled. Like there wasn't a such thing as play dates.
No, just go outside.
You go outside and your friends are there. If they're not, you look around, you ride your bike around and find them. So exactly. That's growing up in Georgia. So I've had to make peace with, like, this is not going to be how the other thing is my daughter having black teachers, you know, and seeing herself reflected every day all around her. Growing up and going to school in Atlanta, that's what I had. You know, we learned about the civil rights movement and all that stuff. So I've had to make peace with that. Like she's not going to necessarily have that like I had it. So I have to figure out how to compensate and give that to her in a different type of way so that she still has the type of childhood that I think she should.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. I think for me, the one thing that comes to mind right in this moment is family. Yeah. Because my family's in Mississippi, California and stuff, so like there's not that same kind of connection. Yeah. You know, I grew up with cousins and aunties and uncles and things. So like my kid, she's not gonna have that from my perspective. Right. My wife's family that were in Brooklyn, which is still pretty that's good distance from where we are now, but it's not that close. That's the biggest one. I mean, she hasn't really started school, so I don't really know what's happening with that. Yeah. But I do think as black people and as black men, it's our responsibility to teach our own kids their history.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because we can't rely on the colonizers to teach our history. It didn't work out, and it hasn't worked out so far. Yeah. So, you know, like I was talking to somebody, and I was like, "Oh, you know about Congo Square?" You know, and he was like, "Nah, what's that?" And I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." Like, you know, they just teach you Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, right? And that's cool, but there's a lot more.
Yeah, I didn't know about Congo Square, I guess, until I became a musician. So after high school, so much of stuff that you learn that you need in life, you don't really learn until after you're done with schooling anyway. So, but that's one of those things. So, single parent household, you said you grew up in, but did you have some type of relationship? You know, you had a relationship with your father.
Yeah. I mean, look, I grew up with my mom. My dad would come visit us. Yeah, we go visit him, and you know, and so we have a relationship. It wasn't the kind of relationship that I wish I would have had. Yeah, no. Yeah. But like that was for a lot of different reasons and a lot of decisions that he made, and also decisions that my mom made that didn't it like contribute to my ideal vision for parenting from their relationship standpoint. Okay. Yeah, my mom was a great parent. She did the best she could. Yeah. You know, and my dad he was around. Yeah. And he gave money and stuff, and I think I feel like he felt like that he played his role as a provider as the best he could. Yeah. And so what was you know, how does that impact your approach to parenting now, do you think? I think, well, man, that's a big question. First of all, the first thing I said was I want my kids to grow up in a 2-parent household. It's the best I could, you know. I was going to try to make the best decisions to make that happen. Yeah. You know, and honestly, it guides my decision making till this day. I always say, man, look, man, it's easy to get a lot of women. Anybody can do that. Anybody. Think about it. That's easy to do, but it's real difficult to make a relationship work with one person. It's just constant work. Yeah. It takes communication, honesty, trust. It takes all these things that you continuously have to work on. Yeah. And so I think as men, sometimes we got to remember that. And if we frame it that way in our minds, then we can make, you know, better decisions. Yeah. But number one, I just wanted my kid to grow up with 2 perspectives and see 2 healthy people having healthy dialogue and disagreements and agreements and love and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what we work on every day.
Okay.
We trying. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. Well, yeah, you keep on trying, and time just goes by. All that stuff adds up. It's all exponential. So having a 2-parent house. That's one of your primary values that you.
Yeah,
think
absolutely, man. Absolutely, it's important. I mean, even if then both parents aren't there, it's definitely important for both parents to be tapped in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of times, for whatever reason, our community, like the men, sometimes are not as tapped in. Like not all, but some.
Yeah.
And so, like you're tapped in, and like you just gotta be. That's how it is. And as long as you're doing that, everything's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
And you just gotta make the proper sacrifices to be there for when your kids need you.
Yeah. So the next question, this is a large question, but what do you think, I guess, in your estimation, makes a good father?
Oh shit! I mean, that's such a personal question because I could name all this stuff, and then you can be like, nah,
I thought I contradicted.
I mean, what makes a good father? I think first and foremost, you have to be a good listener, because like there's gonna come a time when your kid is not gonna want to hear anything that you have to say.
Yeah. And
I think that if you can listen to what they're saying, then you can just drop nuggets. And that's one thing I appreciate about my dad. Like he would drop nuggets that'll live with you forever.
Well, one thing I've noticed is that when I think that my daughter is not listening or doesn't, not paying attention to what I'm trying to teach or whatever, I listen to her playing by herself. Like if she's playing with her toys, with her dolls, or if she's with a friend, you listen to them in those moments, you hear yourself start to come out of them.
Oh, okay.
And you don't even realize it. Like, wow, okay, she is listening, because she'll be with her younger cousins. She's the only child, but she'll be with her younger cousins, and then I'll hear her talking to them, and she'll say something like, wow, okay, she sounds like me. And it'll be something good, I think. Like she may try to encourage her cousin, like, no, you have to speak positive things, because that's the stuff that helps you get better, and you can't talk negative. That's the same type of stuff I say to her, so I guess that's some of the things. You listen to your child play. It's like she plays with dolls or whatever. My daughter has whole productions for her dolls, so you listen, you start to hear yourself come out, for better or for worse,
Oh, absolutely. You got to be careful.
It's for better or for worse. You hear it come out.
Yeah. No, man, I've definitely picked up on that. I mean, she's only 3, so I'm just at the beginning of this journey.
Right.
So
we kind of touched on it, but at this point, what are fatherhood's biggest challenges for you?
Man, I think my biggest challenge is probably like the time sacrifice. Like being a musician means that for me to make the optimal amount of money, I need to go to France, or I'm going to Korea next month, or wherever, Japan, which means that I have to sacrifice time. So it's like, all right, see you in 2 weeks, and with a kid, man, a lot changes in 2 weeks.
A lot.
And then when they tell you, I don't want you to go, and like that's hard, man. And just realizing, like, okay, I have to really balance this out. It's got to be like it's got to be the perfect balance. I don't want them to feel abandoned or like I wasn't there, because inevitably when you're on the road, and I've noticed this even before having a kid, you're gonna miss some big things. Something's gonna happen. You're not gonna be there. And people they remember how that feels. And
that's one of the things that I've worried about, and I've spoken with other musicians about, is that because our love of art and music is a part of our lives, and I think all of us kind of want our children to value it in the same way, whether or not they choose to become musicians.
Right.
But you don't want those types of experiences to turn them away from it altogether. You also got to think, man, we in 2023 here, imagine how it was for parent musicians going overseas or something for a month or two in the 60s or the 70s.
No communication.
All you have is a phone, if that, you know.
That's why I'm doing cheating, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, seriously, like, you can really understand it when you think about what it is. It's like, you know, like a few years ago, I went to, just before I had a kid, I was in Qatar for 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, like, I was just zooming, you know, like, okay, I don't even think I had a girlfriend, so I was just zooming whoever back then, you know, and like, good to see, but imagine you have that connecting point.
Yeah.
That's why those dudes was doing whatever, which which is, you know, when you have a family, it is nice to be able to Zoom and still stay connected and make phone calls and this and that, but it's not the same, and it's not a substitute for being home. So I think everything in life is just about balance.
Yeah.
You know.
So you gotta pivot into the other aspect of fatherhood, which is discipline. You know,
I'm the wrong guy.
You got a 3-year-old daughter. You know, they say that daughters have their fathers wrapped around their finger and all of that stuff. Is that kind of stereotype true for you? Are you good with discipline?
Man, you know, I'm not the discipline guy.
Okay.
I mean, you know, I do notice that I'm getting better at being like, no, absolutely not. You know, but I'm more likely to be like, all right, come on, like, which is not good. So I'm trying to get myself together with that, because she does need to learn what it means, specifically, you know, what it means to say no, and then what it means for someone to say no to you,
right?
And kind of like emotionally and psychologically how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can't just be out here giving her everything, and then when she get out in the real world, she gonna be up for a rude awakening. And also, I don't want her calling me. I'm gonna give you 18 great years, and after that, it's over.
Nah, you a lie. You know it.
Don't call me no more.
We'll see. I've already made peace.
You made peace?
Like, I made peace that after 18, it probably ain't gonna be over till like 27, 30, 35. You know,
that's crazy. No, hell no.
Not in a you know, way that, you know, like too extreme, but. You know,
I'm gonna be 18.
I made peace. That's that Mississippi coming out,
bruh. I mean, I left home when I was 18.
Yeah,
I asked my mom and my dad for money, I think up till 19, and then I got a job. Yeah, and then they never asked nobody for no money since then. Period. Like, it's a wrap.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's also the goal, man, to put our children in a position where they don't have to. You know, and that's what kind of my focus is now. It's like investing and saving to the point where she'll have resources when it's time for her to, you know, go out on her own. So that's the hope. Because it wasn't like that for me. You know? But so we touched on, I guess, the biggest challenges a little bit. You said, you know, the time and stuff like that. What are the kind of some of the other challenges that you think you faced? And also, what has fatherhood taught you about yourself? Actually, let's start there. What has fatherhood taught you about yourself?
Man, so many things. I think it's just really focused my like values. Like, what do I actually value?
Yeah.
It made me realize what's important and what's not important. Like, you know, it's also balanced my my aggressiveness. I think having a daughter like softens you up in a certain, like, as a man. It just does something to you. Yeah, where I'm not as like on edge about life as I once was.
One thing I had to do is it taught me to be more enthusiastic. Like, to express enthusiasm and joy in certain situations. Like, when your kid comes up to you and shows you something that they learned, or that it could be the most simplest thing in the world, you have to like echo that feeling of excitement and wonderment. So that, you know, whereas, you know, normally it's just like, all right, especially black men, we have this cool thing about us, and so don't nothing make us excited like that. Or we've been taught not to allow things to, bring out emotion like that. Right. So with having a child, especially a daughter for me, it's like, okay, I have to be more exciting and excitable so that she sees that she's validated in that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else for you in terms of?
Man, there's a lot of things.
Changes.
I think, having a kid, I think it's powerful. It just makes you so focused, and like I can get something done that would have taken me 10 days in 20 minutes now, because it's like, all right, now I'm probably not gonna have a lot of time, so I'm hyper focused. I know what I want to do, and I just get it done, and I do it. And there's also a certain amount of pressure. It's like where you're always in a pressure cooker over here to like, all right, now I got to make sure this other human eats, and I got to make sure so you're just like hyper focused.
Yeah.
And happier. You're like happier because they're always happy. Like little kids are always, not always, but 90% of the time they're having a great time.
Yeah.
And even when they get sad, like Skylar is my daughter's name. She's always like, oh, I'm sad. And 5 minutes later, she's like, I'm happy now. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, it just reminds you that feelings are temporary. And like,
you ever see that Disney movie, Inside Out?
Man, I feel like I've seen it.
Okay, it's this one where it's like the emotions inside the little girl's brain, and like different emotion takes the wheel or the controls of her brain, and so like she'll go from happy, and then a split second later she's like the mad emotion to come over and take over and start controlling everything. But I saw that it was it's a good movie because I saw it when my then wife was pregnant, and we went to the movie theater and saw it, and I was like, man, is this what I have to expect like from parenthood? And it's pretty accurate in terms of just the way children's emotions are and our emotions are in general. We become, I think the transition becomes a little smoother sometimes from one emotion to the next, but overall that's what it's kind of reminds me of. Career, your daughter's only 3, but what do you feel about her being? Do you have expectations or desires to see her go into music in some type of way?
Absolutely.
Or art in a
Jesus Christ, just don't do it. I mean, listen, man, whatever she wants to be, I'm going to support it.
Yeah.
But I am in no way going to be like, yo, you should be a musician. Fuck that. Don't do it. I would tell her the same thing people told me. Okay, if you want to be a musician, make sure it's the only thing that you want to do. Yeah. And like make sure that your life depends on you being a musician. Yeah. Because if it doesn't, then honestly, it's just not worth. It's not worth the stress of doing this job, man. Yeah. It's not easy. And the culture currently isn't set up to reward you. Think about the thousands and thousands of hours that you had to just sing a C. Like, just fucking learn how to sing it the right way. Man, like, imagine if you were a brain surgeon who put the same energy into, like, you would be the best brain surgeon in the world. And people would applaud you for it. They give you all this money. You'd be able to do whatever you want to do. Like, people don't understand, like, we sit in a dark cave for decades learning to perfect this thing. Yeah. And then I show up and I do it, and then all you just give my little claps. Where's my money at? Yeah. I'm trying to see, where's my money? Looking at all the cameras. Where's my fucking money? Because that's why I would say I want her to be a scientist. I want her to do something that like really contributes to the world in a tangible way, and that the world will reward her for her hard work. Because that, to me, that's like the biggest thing about being a musician. It's like, man, I wish, like for a teacher too, like, like, man, we should get paid a lot more than we do, like, I don't know, she was like, I want to be a musician, fine, I'm going to support it.
Well, who knows, man? Maybe these actors and writers strikes that will trickle over.
It won't. Because musicians have no organization. Yeah. We don't even have a union. There's no SAG after for us. Like, we don't have the same structure set up. Yeah. And like, we don't, that part of our brain from a lot of musicians just isn't on as much, and we don't have those people in our corner to help us organize. Yeah. like the actors do. We should.
Yeah, there's got to be advocacy.
Yeah, man. You ain't in a musicians union.
Yeah, no,
See?
not at all.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we didn't. Me either, because anyway, that's a whole different subject.
Yeah. All right, so when we're, when we think about how our childhood relates, I know when I had a child, like it forces you to kind of go back and reflect on your childhood and what things that happen to make you are, the core experiences and the core memories and stuff. So are there, experiences from your childhood that you can remember that has made an impact on the way you have decided to parent, or things that maybe have happened and say, okay, when I become a parent, this is how I'm going to do it. It could be good or bad. Like, I want to be this type of parent because this experience was impactful to me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, there's tons. Trying to think of a good one first. Yeah, you can remember all the bad ones, like
right.
Oh man, I'll go back to like the community that I had with my family, like my aunts and uncles and cousins, and man, we had a huge family. Man, we would get together every Sunday and cook, and everybody, for years. Like that part of it was nice, and to play baseball with my cousins and tag and all these things. That's like a fun memory and feeling that I would like my daughter to experience. Yeah. Or when I do see her with her cousins, I'm like, I remember, doing that. But also, growing up in the South, man, in the Bible Belt, you get a lot of positive things from religion, but also a lot of negative things, a lot of limiting things, limiting thoughts that I had to work through, and discard, and I don't want that. Also, corporal punishment. I don't believe in hitting people. Yeah. Period. Especially not your kids. Yeah. And I just think all of that shit is remnants of slavery. In my opinion, and it's just spare the ride, spoil the child. Right. I think that's all bullshit. And people might come after me for that, but that's just how I feel.
All right. Well, let's step back to because you said the religion part. Yeah. We can unpack a little bit. Okay. What's some of the, because you said there were certain things about religion that you said were not necessarily.
Yeah, man. The fire and brimstone, all that shit.
Right. You're going to hell.
Yeah, you're going to hell if you. You're going to hell if you gay. You're going to hell if you this. You're going to hell if you that. I'm like, damn, God don't like nothing. Why he invent this shit? Somebody started this shit. Who was it? The devil did, but didn't he invent that nigga? I'm just saying, what's happening? So, and also in church sometimes there's not a lot of room for free thinking. And so I don't like that part of it. There's so many things about church that are positive. Yeah. The community, the spirituality of it. Yeah. All that stuff is great, but you gotta be in spaces that aren't everybody's just circle jerking with the same thoughts. It's somebody's got to question something. Yeah. So I just want to make sure we put her in that space. And not just because I said so.
Right. Yeah. Classic cliche. Yeah. Black America. Exactly. So I don't know. Have you had a chance to develop? I don't know, as she's 3, but and I know COVID ended not too long ago. If it ended, I guess. But the restrictions have been lifted, not too long ago. But has you had a chance to kind of build that community for her, outside yet?
Not really. Just with family, but not in a spiritual sense. Yeah, because we don't she didn't grow up in church. Yeah, like I did, and so we don't even have a culture of going. Well,
not necessarily religion, but I mean just because you said you had your cousins outside. Oh, yeah. We can only duplicate. When our family isn't close, I guess the next best thing is to get a good circle of friends or whatever for you.
We're still working on it because we live out here, and I think when she gets into school. Yeah, it'll be a little bit easier to build a bigger community. Yeah,
and she's kind of home full time now.
Yeah, she's home full time, no daycare, nothing. But we do go to the park. I take her to the park every day.
How's that for you?
It's great. And then I try to talk to the moms, but then when you're the dad at the park, moms ain't really trying to like. Some of them talk to you and say, "But oh, what do y'all do for play groups?" And they're like, "Oh, they don't want to hang out with you." Like I feel like when my wife is out there, they might be a little more receptive.
That's how it was for me. Like I didn't enjoy the parks so much now. Now that my daughter is 7 going on 8, you know, she go out there and do her thing, especially if she has friends out there.
Right.
But that 2-3-year-old age, when taking her to the park, it was always a little apprehensive for me, trying to like make certain conversations with people and doing the small talk thing, especially because, you know, fathers typically aren't the ones out there that often. Every now and then, you know, I get some fathers my age with children my daughter's age and stuff, and that would be good. But you know, it was always easier when her mom would take her, and you know, she'd come back with numbers in her phone and have a WhatsApp group and all that stuff.
Yeah, man, being a black dude at the park, like for instance, man, funny, like we at the park, you know, it's time to go. You know how kids are when it's time to go. She just going crazy. Yeah. So I'm chasing her, pick her up, and then, you know, every woman in the park's like, is that your kid? Like, they don't say it, but the way they look at you, you're just like, it's my kid. Just everybody relax. I've been here for an hour.
And that's the other part. And that's actually a point that I want to make is like, do you feel that when you're, you know, you walk with your daughter around this neighborhood and stuff, do you feel that you having your child with you is almost a shield or an added layer of protection?
Man,
or have you thought about that?
No, not directly, but I have noticed that it is, in certain situations, it's easier for people to accept me in their environment if I have the kid with me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which is, that speaks to protection, you know, because you're not as much of a threat.
Right.
When your daughter, you have your 3-year-old daughter with you, I feel a little more like when she was that age, and now it's shifting a little bit because my daughter's growing to an older. She's going to be, you know, a teenager in 5 years or whatever. But I noticed psychologically when I had my child with me in the neighborhood I was in, there was, I don't know, there was a psychological shift to where I felt a little less vulnerable or a little more able to be accepted in that regard. So it's like we're the protectors as fathers, but our children, for black men, can sometimes be that role for us, you know, without even them realizing it. Or
I'll tell you one thought I do have is like if I'm driving and the police, I'll be like, oh, they see the car seat, so they know I'm cool. And like that's fucked up to think that. Yeah. But that's just America.
So many levels, like that. It's just where our mind goes on so many levels, you know. So that's definitely a big thing for me, and that I still realize. You plan on having more children?
No, absolutely not. Fuck no. Man, listen. First of all, the first reason is like the birth and pregnancy was extremely difficult once she did, and like I don't want to like I would never ask her to put her body and her life on the line again for that. Yeah. And then secondly, man, this shit is hard, man.
It is hard.
And like it's hard to make sure we have enough time for this one. And I just can't imagine like trying to juggle a whole nother human.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I know, I'm not trying to convince you because
don't know.
I already know. I already know. But I also think like, because man, as they get older, and it's like, you know, they want somebody to play with.
Yeah, of course.
And you have to be that person. If you like, when they have another person, like when I go and visit family, and you know, she has a cousin around her age, they off somewhere in the house or doing something. But when it's just me and my daughter, it's, can you play with me every 30 seconds, you know? And I'm like, man, I have to work. I work from home. I gotta work. I can't play right now. And then, you know, she'll ask another 5 minutes later, can you play with me now? Can you play with me? I'm like, damn it, am I neglecting I'm trying to provide for my child by working? Or am I neglecting my child emotionally by trying to work to provide for her financially and everything else? So that whole thing comes into play.
Yeah, man. But you know, yes.
Yeah.
I understand that. Like,
I know
it's the same. Like, when she's with her cousins, she don't need me.
Right.
And it's great. I'm like, oh, okay.
She low-key get mad when I come around. I come to check on you. You all right? You need anything?
Nope.
I'm fine, Dad. I'm all right.
Yeah, it's cool. It's, you know, but man, there's a big responsibility to have another kid. Now, I will tell you, I do, because I have 5 sisters. My mom had 3 kids, and my dad was a Rolling Stone. So
okay.
So it's when you get older, like I'm like, okay, you know, when my mom is gone, it'll be nice. Mm-hmm. And like, so when me and Shadia die and shit, she gonna be alone. That's kind of fucked up, but like, I do think about that. But man, my window, I'm 38, bro. So you know.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, mine is already closed. Okay. I'm good. I already know. You know. I ain't trying to convince you. You ain't got to convince me either, because I already know. I already know the situation.
It's like now or never. Mm-hmm. If it don't happen this year, it's pretty much a wrap.
Yeah.
Like, you know. Yeah. Unless I was told Shadia, I was like, we can do a surrogate, but then I looked up the price. So nah, bro. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I should have had kids when I was like 25. My brain wasn't on yet.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't. I would have been a mess if I tried to have kids that early. I might have adjusted, but no, I couldn't.
I wouldn't have adjusted.
I could not imagine.
It takes too much.
All right, man. So yeah, I know you have you started a nonprofit, a music education not-for-profit organization based in New Orleans, kind of. So you want to talk about that? Like, what's...
Yeah, man. You know, 7 years ago we started Second Line Arts Collective. Me and Gregory Aji. And so the premise of its inception was we wanted to start something that would help the next generation of musicians, but not in a conventional way, in a non-conventional way. So we wanted to help them play their instruments, which everyone does, but we also wanted to help them figure out the business part. And the way we do that is we have this program called the Sanaa Music Workshop, and so the kids come in the summer, and the first 3 hours of the day they play music, and then the last 4 hours of the day they take music business classes to talk about things like investing and retirement, and, you know, contract negotiations and marketing and branding, all these things that you really need to know that no one teaches you in school, in any major. And so we do that, and then during the pandemic, we got a call to start. Someone called me and was like, "Do you guys do kids music, like, you know, early music education?" And I was like, "Yeah." You
better say yes. You can't say no.
We do that. I was like, "Great. Can you make a presentation for some schools in the New York public school system in the next 2 weeks?" Absolutely. And so I just created this whole program, and we've been building on it. It's called Little Stompers.
Little Stompers.
Yeah. And so now we do concerts, we do after school, and we do music, family music classes, like experiential classes, like kind of like the Mommy and Me model.
Yeah.
But everything we do is about New Orleans music and culture. So we don't like show up. It's not some dude with a guitar like singing song, which is cool, but that's not what we do.
Yeah.
Like we address the culture, and we start in Congo Square. We start at the beginning, and we end in the present with John Baptiste and Tank and the Bangers and Big Freedia and stuff like that. So we cover everything in between, Ellis Marcellus and, you know, the rhythm and blues stuff. We do it all.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And we have a podcast too, the Working Artist Project.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, man. Check us out at secondlinearts.org.
Secondlinearts.org.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, anything else you want to share?
Man, don't have no. Nah, look, man. If you're gonna have kids, I think being present is half of it. Like you just gotta really be locked in a real way, and willing to build a relationship with another human. Yeah. And like I think relationships are a two-way street, so it requires like this happening, not just this. Yeah. And I think that the old way of parenting was like, shut up, sit down, and listen to me. It's like that's a one-way street. And then when you get like 30, they're like, why don't you talk to me? And you're just like, what? You ain't talked to me for 20 years. What do you mean? So, yeah, so just and for black men, I think it's important for us to, first of all, respect our women and to respect yourself. And as long as you do those two things, I think those three things, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful note to end on, man. And your daughter's 3, so we might have to do a check back in.
Check back in, see how I'm doing.
Yeah, man. So me too, because once them teenage years hit, I don't know what's going to happen.
I know, man. Who knows?
All right. So,
all right, bro.
Thank you, man. Yeah. All right. Daddy Song Podcast signing off. Peace.
It was the song of a man who did the best that he could. He gave his love the way a real man should. And whenever folks would try to bring him down,